I was living in a $39 a night motel room, eating cold beans out of a dented can, when the knock came at 2 in the morning. The walls in that place were so thin I could hear my neighbor coughing himself to sleep most nights, sometimes crying, sometimes worse. I often wondered if he could hear me doing the same on the other side. Life had gotten that quiet, that small. When I opened the door, there was a man standing under the sick glow of the motel's flickering neon sign. His suit was the kind I'd only ever seen in magazines, tailored, perfect, worth more than I'd made in a month even when my business was thriving. He carried a leather briefcase, the kind you don't buy at the mall, and his face was calm, serious, like this was just another stop on a long night. "Vernon Hutchkins?" he asked. His voice was steady, like he already knew who I was. "Yeah. If you're here about money, I don't have any." He didn't smile. "Your ex-wife Melody doesn't know I'm here. What I'm about to tell you will change everything you thought you knew about her cancer, your divorce, and why she really left you." The words landed heavy like bricks. For a second I thought maybe I was dreaming. Maybe I was hearing things the way tired men sometimes do when their brains are too worn out to tell night from morning. But no, he was real and his eyes didn't waver. "May I come in?" he asked. I glanced around my room. Unmade bed, a hot plate balanced on a card table, cardboard boxes stacked against the walls, the leftover pieces of a life I used to have. It wasn't a place for guests. But something in his eyes made me step aside anyway. "5 minutes," I muttered. "Then you leave." He walked in like he belonged anywhere, set his briefcase on the bed and turned to me. "My name is Theodore Ashford. I'm a private investigator. I've been hired by someone who cares about you. Someone who never believed the story your wife told." "Ex-wife," I corrected, and the word cut on the way out. "Yes, of course. Your ex-wife, Melody." He snapped open the briefcase and pulled out a thick manila folder. My stomach sank before he even opened it. "Tell me," he said, "did you ever meet Dr. Harrison Vance before your wife's diagnosis?" "No," I said quickly. "She found him through a specialist referral. Said he was the best in Denver." "Why?" Theodore slid a photograph across the blanket. Melody was in it, laughing at a backyard barbecue with a man I recognized instantly, Dr. Vance. The date stamped on the corner was 3 years before her diagnosis. My hands curled into fists without me realizing. "That's not possible," I whispered. Theodore looked straight at me, his voice as calm as ever. "Dr. Vance is your ex-wife's second cousin. And together they've been planning something far darker than you could imagine." I couldn't breathe right. The photo sat on my blanket like a loaded gun, pointing at everything I thought I knew. Melody, smiling, relaxed, not a trace of sickness, standing next to the man who later told me my world was over. Theodore flipped another page in the folder before I could even process the first. "This," he said, sliding papers toward me, "is a bank statement. Cayman Islands account, opened under her maiden name. Look at the deposits. Every time you sold something, your excavator, your trucks, even your father's Harley, the money appeared here days later." My stomach turned. I thought I was paying medical bills, saving my wife's life. Instead, I'd been filling a hidden account while tearing my own life apart piece by piece. "You're lying," I said, but it came out hollow. He shook his head. "I wish I were. The medical records were falsified. Chemotherapy drugs replaced with saline and specific vitamins designed to make her sick just enough to convince you. She lost weight through diet pills and prescription meds Dr. Vance provided. Every scan you saw was taken from another patient. Every tear you wiped away, every sleepless night you spent working to pay for treatments, it was all staged." I gripped the side of the bed, the cheap mattress springs digging into my hand. "No." I saw her hair fall out. I held her when she threw up for hours. Theodore reached into the folder again and pulled out another document, medical jargon all over it. "Induced vomiting agents, Vernon. Medications that trigger rapid weight loss. Anxiety drugs that mimic panic attacks." She wasn't dying. She was acting. And you were the audience paying admission with your blood. My ears buzzed like the room was filled with bees. I remembered the nights I spent at that kitchen table, calculator in hand, trying to stretch nothing into something. The ring I sold, the house I gave up, the company I'd built with my own hands, All of it drained away while she looked me in the eyes and said, "Promise me you won't let me die." I wanted to scream, to hit something, but my voice cracked instead. "Brent Caldwell," I muttered. "The lawyer. He was in on it, wasn't he?" Theodore's lips thinned. "From the very beginning. He stood next to her in court, painted you as unstable, unfit, broke. Meanwhile, he was sharing a bed with her and splitting the offshore account." I pressed my palms to my face. The sound that came out of me didn't even sound human. I'd thought I'd lost because I was weak, because I couldn't hold my world together. But the truth was worse. They'd planned it. Every move I made, every sacrifice had been part of their game. "How long have you known?" I whispered. 6 months, Theodore said. "I was hired the day after your divorce was finalized." My head shot up. "By who?" For the first time his face softened. "Your father, Earl. He never believed Melody. He said, my boy would give everything for family, but I'll be damned if I let him lose everything to a lie." The tears came before I could stop them. My father, the man I'd pushed away, the man whose money I refused out of pride, had been fighting for me all along. Theodore leaned forward, voice low but steady. "Vernon, you were never as alone as you thought. Your family's been fighting in the shadows. And tomorrow morning, everything changes." 6 months earlier, my life looked nothing like it does now. Back then, I was waking up in the house I built with my own hands. A real home, not just walls, but memories nailed into every beam. I had a family that filled it with noise and laughter. I thought I was the luckiest man alive. My mornings always began the same way. Melody left a note on my nightstand: "Coffee's ready. Lunch is packed. Love you, Vern." After 20 years together, I still believed she meant it. I'd head downstairs to find Colton already at the table, his football playbook open. "Dad, can we run plays later?" he'd ask. "After work," I'd promise like always. Piper would come down next, violin case in hand, reminding me about her school concert. I'd smile and say, "Wouldn't miss it for the world." Breakfast was loud and chaotic, but it was ours. Melody buzzing around the kitchen, kids talking over each other, me grabbing coffee before heading out. At the time, I thought that routine would last forever. My company, Hutchkins Construction, was steady and strong. I'd built it from nothing but a toolbox and a truck. We specialized in custom homes, projects where every detail mattered. My crew was loyal, men I trusted like brothers. Chester Pike, my foreman, had been with me for years. Miguel, my framer, could cut wood straighter than any machine. They weren't just workers, they were family. Sometimes my father, Earl, came to the sites. At 73, he still walked like a man you didn't argue with. He'd run his hand along the frames, nodding at my work. "Good job, son. Your grandfather would be proud." Those words meant more than money ever could. Sundays were sacred. My mother cooked too much food, Dalton brought his kids, and the house filled with laughter. After eating, we'd sit on the porch talking while the children ran in the yard. In those moments, I believed nothing could shake what I had built. But cracks were already forming, ones I ignored. Melody seemed distant at times, distracted. She'd stare out the window, lost in thought. I told myself it was stress or that she was just tired. I didn't press her. Why would I? After 20 years, I trusted her completely. I thought love was strong enough to hold us together. Looking back now, I realize I was blind. The signs were there. But when you're happy, you don't search for shadows. You tell yourself everything is fine. I had a family, a business, and a home. What reason did I have to doubt? If I'd looked closer, maybe I would have seen the truth sooner. Maybe I could have stopped what was coming. But at that time, I believed my foundation was unshakable. I didn't know the storm had already started. The day it all started felt ordinary at first. It was a Tuesday, cool spring air drifting through the house. I left early for the job site, same as always. Melody had been complaining of stomach pain lately, but she brushed it off whenever I asked her to see a doctor. Said it was nothing. I didn't push too hard. I trusted her. That afternoon my phone rang while I was reviewing blueprints. I'll never forget her voice. It was shaky, broken, the sound of someone terrified. "Vern, I'm at the hospital. They found something. Can you come?" I didn't think. I just dropped everything. Chester, my foreman, saw my face and told me to go. I broke every speed limit between the site and Denver General, heart pounding, praying it wasn't as bad as it sounded. When I got there, Melody was sitting in a hospital gown, makeup streaked down her cheeks from crying. Standing beside her was Dr. Harrison Vance. Tall, serious, the kind of man you don't question when he's wearing a white coat. He introduced himself, then said words that shattered me. "Your wife has stage 3 ovarian cancer. We need to start aggressive treatment immediately." It felt like the floor dropped out from under me. My grandmother died of cancer. So did Melody's father. I knew what that road looked like. I sat there numb as Vance explained treatments, survival rates, and costs. I couldn't hear half of it. All I saw was Melody gripping my hand, eyes wide with fear. In the parking garage afterward, she collapsed against me, sobbing into my shirt. "I don't want to die, Vern. I want to see our kids grow up. I want to grow old with you." I held her face in my hands, looking into the green eyes I'd fallen for as a teenager. "You won't die, Mel. Whatever it takes, whatever it costs, we'll beat this. I promise." That night, after the kids were asleep, we sat at the kitchen table with insurance papers spread out like a battlefield map. The numbers were brutal. Insurance covered some, but not nearly enough. We were staring at hundreds of thousands in expenses. "We'll figure it out," I told her. "The business is good. The house has equity. We've got options." She nodded, squeezing my hand. "I love you, Vernon." I believed her. I wanted to. Looking back, I should have noticed the little things. How quickly she agreed to sell assets. The way her eyes shifted when I said we'd manage. The late-night phone calls she said were to her sister, even though her sister lived in another time zone. But in that moment, I saw only my wife, terrified and fragile, and I swore I'd move mountains for her. Because that's what a husband does, right? He sacrifices. He protects. He saves the woman he loves. I had no idea I was about to burn down my entire life for a lie. The bills started arriving 2 weeks after the diagnosis, thick envelopes with numbers that made my chest tighten. The first one was for $47,000, diagnostics and consultations. Insurance covered 12. The rest was on us. I emptied our savings account without hesitation. Every penny went straight to the hospital. Melody found me at the table the next morning, staring at the statement with a calculator in my hand. She touched my shoulder, her voice soft. "Vern, this is too much. Maybe we should look for another opinion." I shook my head. "Dr. Vance said he's the best. You're getting the treatment you need." She kissed my forehead like she was grateful. At the time it felt like love. I started selling equipment first. The excavator I'd saved years to buy, the dump trucks, the crane. Tools that allowed me to take on bigger projects disappeared one by one. Within a week, I was calling clients to explain delays. Some were kind, but developers aren't known for patience. We lost contracts. Money dried up. Chester noticed before anyone else. He pulled me aside on site. "Boss, you don't look good. What's going on?" I told him the truth. "Melody's sick. Cancer." His face went pale. He'd lost his wife to breast cancer 5 years earlier. He pulled out his wallet, handed me an envelope. "20 grand I've been saving. Take it. Don't argue." I wanted to refuse. Pride clawed at me. But I looked at his eyes and I couldn't say no. "I'll pay you back," I whispered. He shook his head. "Just save her." But it was never enough. Dr. Vance recommended an experimental treatment, not covered by insurance. $180,000. I didn't blink. "We'll find it," I told him. And I did, by selling everything else. The house was next. The one I built nail by nail, where my children had grown up, where every wall held a memory. We packed up and moved into a 2-bedroom rental downtown. Piper and Colton shared a room for the first time in their lives. She didn't complain, but I heard her crying at night. My father saw me loading tools into boxes one evening. "This has gone far enough," he said. "Let me help. Your mother and I have savings." I shook my head. "No, Dad. That's your retirement." He slammed his hand on the table, angrier than I'd seen him in years. "You're drowning and you won't grab the rope. That's not pride, that's stupidity." But I wouldn't budge. I thought it was my responsibility alone. The last thing I sold was my wedding ring. Platinum band, 3 small diamonds. I'd promised Melody she'd never have to take hers off, but there I was, sliding mine across the counter at a pawn shop. Mr. Goldstein, the owner, looked at it and sighed. Your grandfather bought the original from my father in '55. I'll give you more than it's worth. I walked out with 15,000, my hands shaking. Every sacrifice felt like love at the time. I thought I was proving myself as a husband. I thought I was saving her life. But in reality I was just feeding the lie. By the 4th month, the doctors were saying things I desperately wanted to hear. Dr. Vance showed us scans, pointing to shaded areas that looked smaller than before. The tumors are shrinking, he said in that confident, clinical voice. Better than expected. If this continues, she could be in remission within 2 months. Melody cried when she heard it, clutching my hand like it was her lifeline. I forced a smile, but inside I felt hollow. I should have been relieved. Instead, I was exhausted, physically, mentally, financially. I'd burned my life to the ground and all I had left was her. The bills never stopped. Every treatment was another mountain. I kept selling what little remained, borrowing against favors, working day labor to scrape together rent. My business was gone. My crew scattered, though Chester still called every week to check in. I told him I'd rebuild when Melody got better. He didn't say it out loud, but I could hear doubt in his silence. At home things felt different. Melody's body was thinner, her cheekbones sharp, but she'd started wearing makeup again. Expensive brands I didn't remember buying. She smiled at her phone late at night, saying it was her support group. When I asked, she'd wave me off. You wouldn't understand. Only people who've lived it get it. My brother Dalton noticed too. One Sunday while Mom set the table, Dalton pulled me aside. Vern, she doesn't look sick anymore. But the way she looks at you, he hesitated. It's not the same. I bristled. She's been through hell, Dal. Don't judge her for not bouncing back. He dropped it, but I saw the doubt in his eyes. 6 weeks later, Dr. Vance declared her cancer-free. Melody's tears looked real, her gratitude sounded genuine. But instead of joy, I felt a gnawing emptiness. We'd won the battle, or so I thought, but at a cost I couldn't measure. No house. No company. No savings. Just a man stripped down to nothing, clinging to the woman he thought he'd saved. Then the distance grew. She started going out more, saying she needed time with friends who understood her struggle. She dressed differently, carried herself differently. The perfume she had stopped wearing during treatments came back, strong and sharp. One evening I came home from a day labor job, clothes soaked in sweat and drywall dust, and found her folding clothes into suitcases. The apartment smelled like her perfume. The look on her face wasn't sorrow, it was disgust. Mel, what's going on? I asked, my throat tight. She didn't even look at me. I'm leaving, Vernon. I froze. Leaving? After everything, after the house, the business, my father's Harley, the ring, everything I gave up to keep you alive. She finally met my eyes and they were cold as stone. And look at what's left of you. A pathetic man working day jobs, living in a dump. That's not a real man, Vernon. Brent showed me what a real man looks like. Her words cut deeper than any knife. I thought Melody saying she was leaving me was the end. But it wasn't. A week later I was served with divorce papers. Everything was already lined up. Custody filings, financial claims, even spousal support demands. The name on the documents made me sick. Brent Caldwell. Her lawyer. The man who had been standing beside her while I thought he was just doing his job. Now he was her fiancé. The custody hearing was scheduled fast. 3 weeks. I walked into the courtroom wearing my only suit, one I usually saved for funerals. Melody walked in glowing, dressed in expensive clothes I couldn't have bought even when business was good. Brent was right there, his hand on her shoulder, looking smug like victory was already his. Judge Thornton presided. She was strict, sharp-eyed, and known for caring about children's stability above all else. Melody went first. Her voice shook, her timing perfect, tears sliding down her cheeks. Your Honor, my husband has made reckless financial choices. He sold our home without consulting me. He left our children unstable, moving them from place to place. I fear for their well-being in his care. Every word was a knife. I wanted to shout, to tell the judge I sold everything to save her life. When it was my turn, I said exactly that. Your Honor, my wife was diagnosed with cancer. Every decision I made was to pay for treatment. I gave up everything to keep her alive. Caldwell stood calm as ice. With respect, Your Honor, my client's medical history is private. But I can assure you she did not need such extreme measures. Mr. Hutchkins chose recklessly, bankrupting his family. That is negligence, not love. My lawyer, a young public defender buried under 100 cases, barely argued. She shuffled papers, muttered objections too late, and let Caldwell steer the whole room. Then came the part that broke me. They brought in my children. Colton, my boy, wouldn't meet my eyes. Piper stared at the floor, her violin case clutched in her lap. The judge asked one question. Would you rather live with your mother or your father? Colton's voice was flat, rehearsed. Mom's house is better for us. Dad can visit, but we need stability. Piper just nodded, tears running down her face. I wanted to scream that their mother had coached them, but I had no proof. The ruling came down fast. Full custody to Melody. I was allowed supervised visits every other weekend. On top of that, the judge ordered me to pay $500 a month in child support and 30% of any future earnings if I ever rebuilt my business. Your Honor, I don't even have $500, I said. She looked at me coldly. Then you'd better find it, Mr. Hutchkins, or face contempt of court. The gavel hit. Just like that, I lost my children, my home, and my dignity in one afternoon. As they walked out, Melody didn't even glance back. Brent smirked at me, leaning close enough to whisper, "Some men just aren't meant to play in the big leagues." And that was the moment I realized, I wasn't just broke. I was nothing. After court, I didn't go back to the apartment. I couldn't. Melody had already emptied it. My kids were gone, their laughter ripped out of my life. I drove until the gas light came on, then pulled into a rundown place off the highway called the Sunset Valley Motel. The sign buzzed and flickered, half the letters burned out. Room 107. $39 a night. Paid in cash. That became home. The room smelled like cigarettes and mildew. One bed, one chair, a TV that only caught 3 channels. The wallpaper peeled in corners, the ceiling stained with watermarks shaped like continents. At first, I told myself it was temporary. Just until I got back on my feet. But days turned into weeks, weeks into months. I picked up day labor jobs, anything that paid cash. Hauling drywall, digging trenches, swinging a hammer for men half my age. I'd collapse on that sagging mattress at night, too tired to eat, too angry to sleep. Sometimes I'd open a can of beans and eat them cold, staring at the cracked ceiling, wondering how a man could fall so far so fast. The phone barely rang. Mom left voicemails I couldn't answer. Dalton came by once, banging on the door, but I stayed silent. I couldn't let them see me like that. My father called too. I didn't pick up. Pride is a cruel thing. It convinces you suffering alone is better than being seen broken. I thought about my kids every night. Colton with his football play spread across the table. Piper practicing her violin in the living room. I replayed the last look they gave me in court, distant, coached, but still mine. I wondered if they hated me or worse if they believed their mother's lies. That thought ate at me more than hunger ever did. Neighbors in the motel had their own tragedies. On the other side of the wall, a man cried himself to sleep most nights. Sometimes I thought he could hear me doing the same. Misery in surround sound. One night, I sat on the edge of the bed, staring at the pawn ticket for my wedding ring. It was the last tangible piece of my old life. My reflection in the cracked mirror looked like a stranger. Hollow eyes, unshaven face, a man stripped bare. I thought about ending it. Just slipping away quietly. No one would notice, I told myself. Maybe the world would be better off. But something always stopped me. Maybe the memory of my kids. Maybe my father's voice in the back of my head. Or maybe just plain cowardice. 3 weeks blurred together like that. Day labor, silence, and the weight of failure pressing down. I stopped answering calls. I stopped hoping. I stopped living. And then one night it happened. 2 a.m. A knock at the door. Not the kind you hear from drunk neighbors or the motel clerk. This one was steady. Certain. The kind of knock that told you whoever stood on the other side wasn't leaving. I didn't know it yet, but that knock was the beginning of everything changing. The knock didn't stop. 3 sharp raps, then silence, then again. I thought about ignoring it, but something in the rhythm felt deliberate, like the man on the other side knew I was awake. I dragged myself up, half expecting it to be the manager demanding rent or some drunk who had the wrong door. Instead, when I opened it, I saw him, the man in the $5,000 suit. Crisp, clean, out of place against the peeling paint of Sunset Valley Motel. He carried a leather briefcase that probably cost more than my monthly rent. "Vernon Hutchins?" he asked, voice calm, certain. "Yeah. If you're here about money, I don't have any." He didn't smile. "Your ex-wife Melody doesn't know I'm here. What I'm about to tell you will change everything you thought you knew about her cancer, your divorce, and why she left you." Something in his eyes stopped me from slamming the door. I stepped back, embarrassed at the state of the room, the unmade bed, boxes stacked in corners, a hot plate on the table. "5 minutes," I muttered. "Then you go." He stepped in, set the briefcase on the bed, and turned toward me. "My name is Theodore Ashford. I'm a private investigator. I've been hired by someone who cares about you. Someone who never believed the story your wife told." "Ex-wife," I corrected him. The word felt like poison in my mouth. "Yes, of course. Your ex-wife." He opened the briefcase, pulled out a thick manila folder, and slid a photograph across the bedspread. Melody at a barbecue, laughing, standing next to a tall man I recognized immediately, Dr. Harrison Vance. The date stamped on the photo was 3 years before her diagnosis. "That's not possible," I whispered. "It's very possible," Theodore said evenly. "Dr. Vance is your ex-wife's second cousin. They've been planning something together for more than 2 years." My chest tightened. I saw her sick. The vomiting, the weight loss, the hair falling out. Theodore flipped open the folder, revealing pages of medical records, prescriptions, financial statements. It was all staged. The chemo? Saline mixed with vitamins. The weight loss? Prescription drugs. The scans you saw? Stolen from other patients. She played the part, Vernon. And you, he tapped the folder with one finger, you paid for the performance. I staggered back, gripping the chair to keep from falling. "And every time you sold something," Theodore continued, "your house, your equipment, even your father's Harley, the money showed up here." He pointed to a bank statement with an offshore account in the Cayman Islands, Melody's maiden name at the top. This was never about survival. It was about greed. I sat down hard, the mattress groaning under me. My hands shook. "Brent Caldwell," I muttered. Theodore nodded. He was in on it from the start. Not just her lawyer, her partner. Together they built the perfect trap. And you walked right into it. The walls felt like they were closing in. I buried my face in my hands. "You're not alone in this, Vernon," Theodore said quietly. "Your family never stopped fighting for you. Your father knew something was wrong. He hired me to prove it. And now we have enough evidence to burn them all." I sat there, staring at the papers spread across the bed, my hands trembling. The words on the pages blurred, swimming in front of me. Offshore accounts, falsified medical records, photographs that proved betrayal. I couldn't take it all in. I kept thinking about the nights I sat at my kitchen table, calculator in hand, breaking down numbers until my vision blurred. Every sacrifice I made, every dollar I scraped together, it hadn't been for her life. It had been for her escape. "How long have you known?" My voice cracked. Theodore leaned back in the rickety chair, his suit looking too sharp for that room. 6 months. I was hired the day after your divorce was finalized. My head snapped up. "Hired? By who?" For the first time since he walked in, Theodore allowed a small smile. "Your father. Earl Hutchins. He never believed Melody's story. He said, and I quote, 'My boy would give everything for family, but I'll be damned if I let him lose everything to a lie.'" The words hit harder than anything else he'd told me. My father. The man I'd pushed away, too proud to accept help, too ashamed to show how far I'd fallen. He'd been fighting for me all along. Theodore flipped to another section of the folder, pulling out photographs. My mother, June, following Melody when she claimed she was heading to treatments. Notes in my mother's careful handwriting, times, locations, descriptions. Then another set of papers, my brother Dalton's notes, tracing financial transfers, documenting hidden purchases. They've been with me from the beginning, Theodore explained. Your father knew something was wrong when Melody wouldn't let him attend a single appointment. He put your mother on her trail. Dalton used his contacts to follow the money. Every piece of this puzzle, your family helped put it together. I pressed my hands to my face, tears burning. For months I thought I was abandoned. I thought nobody cared. I thought my family had turned their backs on me the same way Melody had. All those nights alone in the motel, eating beans from a can, believing I was invisible, when in truth my family was out there fighting, bleeding for me in their own way. You weren't alone, Vernon, Theodore said softly. Even when you thought you were. They knew you were too broken to see it, so they carried the fight for you. The room swayed and I sat down before my knees gave out. The cheap mattress groaned under my weight. My voice was little more than a whisper. All this time, they never gave up on me. Theodore nodded. And tomorrow morning, everything changes. The FBI has enough evidence to move. Melody and Brent will be in federal custody by 9 a.m. Dr. Vance has already confessed in exchange for a deal. The money is frozen. Your children are safe. And your family, they're waiting for you. For the first time in months, something stirred inside me that I thought was gone. Hope. Theodore reached back into the briefcase and pulled out another document. He laid it on the bed slowly like he wanted me to really see it. When my eyes focused, my breath caught in my throat. It was a deed. Not just any deed, my house. The address printed bold across the top, the house I had built nail by nail, the one I thought I'd lost forever. I don't understand, I whispered, running my fingers over the paper like it might vanish. Your father bought it the day you sold it, Theodore said. He used a trust so Melody wouldn't know. He's been paying taxes, maintaining it, keeping it ready for you. He knew you'd need it again. I shook my head. My father was 73 years old. He should have been enjoying retirement, not secretly buying back homes to protect his son's pride. Why didn't he tell me? Because one wrong move could have spooked her, Theodore replied. If Melody knew the house wasn't really gone, she would have bolted with the money and the kids. We had to wait until every piece of evidence was ironclad. The room spun again, but not from despair this time. From shock. From the weight of what my father had done. I thought about him, strong and stubborn, the man who'd once slammed his hand on my kitchen table and told me to stop drowning in pride. He hadn't stopped fighting even when I pushed him away. Theodore pulled out another set of papers. Renewed business licenses, insurance documents. Your father also kept Hutchkins Construction alive on paper. Paid the fees. Renewed the permits. He told me, my boy might be broken now but he'll come back. And when he does, I don't want him starting from zero. My throat closed. For months I thought I had nothing. I believed I was ruined beyond repair. Yet here was proof that my foundation had been waiting, protected by the man who refused to let me fall all the way down. There's more, Theodore said. He reached into his pocket this time and slid a set of keys across the bedspread. I stared at them, confused. Your truck, he explained. Your father's been maintaining it. Oil changes, new tires, everything. Is parked outside right now. Same crack in the windshield from when Colton hit it with a baseball. Same coffee stain on the seat from when Piper spilled your mug on the way to school. He wanted it waiting for you exactly as you left it. The tears came hot and fast, burning my eyes. I picked up the keys and held them in my palm. They felt heavier than anything I'd carried in months. All this time, I whispered. I thought I was alone. I thought I'd lost everything. You lost Melody, Theodore said quietly. And thank God you did. But you didn't lose your family. You didn't lose your name. And tomorrow morning when she's in handcuffs, you'll see just how much you still have. For the first time in a long time I felt like maybe, just maybe, the fight wasn't over. Theodore's words lingered in the room like smoke. My father bought back my house. He kept my business alive. My family had been fighting for me while I was wasting away in a motel room, convinced I was alone. It was almost too much to take in. I sat there with the truck keys in my hand, staring at them like they were some kind of lifeline pulled from the wreckage. "There's one last thing," Theodore said, sliding another folder toward me. "The FBI is ready to move. Tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. Melody and Brent Caldwell will be arrested." The words hit me like a jolt of electricity. Arrested? On what charges? Theodore opened the folder, neat and precise. Fraud. Conspiracy. Embezzlement. Insurance fraud. Custodial interference. And a half-dozen other federal violations. We've been building the case for months. Dr. Vance already confessed. Signed testimony, video recorded. He gave us everything. The treatments, the falsified scans, even the offshore account details. I felt the air rush out of my lungs. For months I'd been drowning, convinced I'd lost to her lies. And now the tide was turning. "They think they're untouchable," Theodore continued. "They think you're broken, finished. That makes tomorrow all the sweeter. The FBI has them under surveillance. We know their routines. We know when Brent leaves for the office, when Melody drops the kids at school, even the nights they sit together planning their next move. By this time tomorrow, they'll be in custody." I clenched my fists. "And my kids?" "They're already with your parents," Theodore said. "Safe. They've been told the truth. Your father wanted me to tell you personally. Colton and Piper know you didn't fail them. They know their mother lied. They're waiting for you to come home." My chest tightened, but not from pain this time. From something I hadn't felt in months, relief. "What about the money?" I asked, my voice low. "Frozen," Theodore said. "Every dollar Melody stashed offshore is locked down. The government will claw back what they can. Some of it will go to restitution, some to rebuilding what you lost. It won't be everything, but you'll have enough to start again. More importantly, you'll have your name back." I leaned back against the wall, staring at the ceiling. The stains looked different now. Not like maps of places I'd never see, but like reminders that even the ugliest things could hold stories. Theodore stood, straightening his suit. "Get some rest, Vernon. Tomorrow is the beginning of a new chapter. But be ready. It won't be easy. Revenge never is." He moved toward the door, then paused. "One more thing, your crew. Chester Pike and the others. They've been waiting for you. Meeting every Sunday at your father's house, turning down permanent jobs, scraping by on day labor, all because they believed you'd come back. You haven't lost them either." I couldn't speak. My throat closed with emotion. I just nodded, gripping the keys tighter. As the door shut behind him, the motel felt different. For the first time in months, it wasn't a coffin. It was a waiting room. Tomorrow, the world that had broken me was finally going to answer for what it did. Morning came with a heaviness I hadn't felt in months, but this time it wasn't despair, it was anticipation. I'd barely slept. The truck keys were still on the nightstand, glinting in the weak motel light like proof that not everything was gone. At 8:45, Theodore called. His voice was steady. "It's time." I drove my old truck for the first time in months. The engine rumbled like it was alive again, like it had been waiting for me. I followed Theodore's instructions to a quiet street in Cherry Creek, the upscale neighborhood where Melody and Brent had been living. I parked half a block away, out of sight, and waited. At exactly 9 o'clock, 2 black SUVs pulled up in front of their house. 4 FBI agents stepped out, jackets marked bold in yellow letters. My heart hammered as the front door opened. Melody stepped out first, sunglasses on, hair perfect, carrying a coffee cup like she didn't have a care in the world. Brent followed, adjusting his tie, smirking like the king of the block. The moment they saw the agents, everything shifted. One agent read from a folder, his voice loud and clear. "Melody Hutchkins and Brent Caldwell, you are under arrest for conspiracy to commit fraud, insurance fraud, embezzlement, and custodial interference." Melody froze, her coffee cup slipping from her hand and shattering on the pavement. Brent tried to argue, his lawyer's bravado kicking in. "You can't do this. I'm an officer of the court." The agent cut him off. "You're also under investigation for professional misconduct. You might want to save your breath for your attorney." They spun him around and cuffed him before he could finish. Melody's voice cracked. "This is a mistake. My husband, my ex-husband, he's unstable, One agent pulled out a thick folder. "We have testimony from Dr. Harrison Vance, bank records, falsified medical documents, and recorded conversations between you and Caldwell. This isn't a mistake, Mrs. Hutchkins. This is justice." Her eyes darted around frantically, and for a second they landed on me. I was standing by my truck watching. She went pale. For the first time in years she looked afraid. I didn't move. I just stared back, letting her see the man she thought she'd broken standing tall again. They loaded Melody and Brent into separate vehicles. Brent kept shouting about his rights, but no one listened. Melody's face pressed against the window, tears streaming now. But not once did I feel sorry for her. Not once. The SUVs pulled away, sirens silent, and the street fell quiet again. I stood there, breathing hard, the morning sun warm on my face. For the first time since this nightmare began, I felt free. Theodore walked up beside me, his expression calm but satisfied. "It's done," he said simply. And for the first time in months I believed him. After the SUVs disappeared, silence settled over the street, but inside me it was anything but quiet. My chest felt heavy, my hands shook, and for the first time in months, it wasn't from despair, it was from release. Melody was gone. Brent was gone. The lies that had hollowed out my life had finally collapsed. Theodore placed a hand on my shoulder. "They're in custody now. It's time to go home." Home. The word tasted foreign, like something I'd lost the right to say. But I followed him anyway, climbing back into my truck. The crack in the windshield caught the light, and I remembered Colton's baseball slamming into it 2 summers ago. A memory that stung but also grounded me. The drive felt endless. My mind raced with questions. What would my kids say? Would they forgive me for disappearing into that motel, for being too broken to fight sooner? Or would they still see me as the man their mother painted me to be? When we pulled into my parents' driveway, the sight nearly brought me to my knees. The whole family was there. My father stood tall on the porch, his arms crossed, eyes watching me with that quiet strength that had carried me even when I didn't want to admit it. My mother, June, was beside him, wringing her hands, tears already shining in her eyes. And then I saw them, Colton and Piper, running toward me before I even stepped out of the truck. "Dad." Piper's violin case clattered to the ground as she threw herself into my arms. Her sobs shook against my chest. "We're so sorry. Mom made us say those things in court. She said she'd send us away if we didn't." Colton came next, taller now, stronger, but his arms wrapped around me like he was still a boy. "I knew something was wrong, Dad. I knew it. Grandpa showed us everything. She was lying. She was evil." I couldn't speak. I held them both, my throat tight, tears streaming down my face. Months of pain poured out in that moment, washed away by the simple truth that they were mine, and they knew the truth now. When I looked up, my father was there. His face was weathered, but his eyes burned with quiet pride. "Welcome home, son." I tried to find words, but all that came was, "Thank you. For everything." He shook his head. "You did what I raised you to do. You put family first. Don't let her betrayal make you forget that." Inside, my mother had cooked enough food for an army. Dalton was there with his kids, and even Chester Pike and a couple of the old crew showed up, clapping me on the back, saying they never doubted I'd be back. For the first time in so long, the house was filled with life again. Laughter, voices, the sound of family. And for the first time in months, I believed I still had one. 6 months later, I stood in my workshop, the same one I thought I'd lost forever. The walls smelled like fresh lumber again, the hum of saws filled the air, and my hands were steady on the workbench. Colton and Piper were beside me, sanding boards for a bookshelf we were building for their grandmother. Life wasn't perfect. Money was tight, scars still lingered, but we were whole again. The FBI had been thorough. Melody was sentenced to 12 years in federal prison for fraud, conspiracy, and money laundering. Brent Caldwell got 15 plus disbarment. Dr. Vance lost his license and was serving 8 years. The restitution order brought some money back, but not nearly all of it. Still, I realized something important. The money wasn't what mattered. What mattered was the laughter echoing through the house I built with my own hands. What mattered was my daughter playing her violin in the living room without fear, my son tossing a football in the yard again. What mattered was family dinners at my parents' table, loud and crowded and messy in the best way. Chester and the crew returned one by one. We weren't as big as before, but we were stronger. Clients who once walked away now came back, some with apologies, some with tears, all with trust. Hutchkins Construction was alive again, and so was I. One afternoon, Piper asked me quietly, "Dad, how do you trust anyone again after what Mom did?" I thought about it for a long time. Finally I told her, "You trust, but you also watch. Love should include trust, but real love also protects." I ignored warning signs because I wanted to believe the best. That was my mistake. Trust isn't blind, sweetheart, it walks with its eyes open. Colton looked up from measuring a board. "Do you hate her?" I shook my head. "No. Hate would mean she still has power over me. I feel sorry for her. She had everything, family, love, a home, and she threw it away. That's her prison long after she serves her sentence." In my office, Theodore Ashford's card still sat on the desk. On the back was my father's handwriting. "A man isn't measured by what he loses, but by what he's willing to sacrifice for love." Those words carried me every day. Sometimes I thought about helping others, men who might be walking blindly into the same traps. Maybe someday I will. For now, rebuilding is enough. The motel key from room 107 still hangs on a hook in my workshop. Not as a reminder of failure, but as proof that rock bottom isn't the end, it's the foundation you rebuild from. If you're hearing this, know one thing: you're never as alone as you think. Someone somewhere is fighting for you. Sometimes it's your father. Sometimes it's your kids. Sometimes it's the part of yourself that refuses to quit. And that's real strength. That's survival. That's family.